who is also a heptathlete, she's not in here. She won silver. Ceylon Bill, it's not here.
Omusisia Rukia of Kenya. Fiadanutsia Sidania also in there. Nigeria's Faith Osamui and Tobi Amusan, the African champion, the world record holder. Cecilia Gombe, Mozambique's national champion. And Kamangirira of Zimbabwe, also the national champion of Zimbabwe. And Naomi Akapo, also national champion of Togo. The final of the women's 100-meter hurdles. Just going to get frantic as quickly as possible. 12.68 seconds is the games record set by Amusan at the last games in Rabat.
Technique is everything.
The final of the women's. Oh my word! It's Tobi Amusan who looked to have false started, isn't it? This is gonna be. Oh my word! Oh my word!
It is.
This is drama aplenty.
It is.
The big favorite, the world record holder, the world champion, the African Games champion, the African Games record holder, the African record holder, the favorite for gold medal in this race.
I think
Could be on her way out. She's asking people to calm down. Calm down, calm down. What is it going to be?
I think it was quite clear, and we know what it's going to be. Tobi Amusan will be disqualified.
This will be a huge disappointment for Tobi Amusan.
What happened there? I mean, there was no movement to have spoofed her.
So this is, we all wait with bated breath and look at her attitude. Look at her, she is so focused, so poised.
She's a consummate professional. There's no emotion.
She's maintaining her composure as they review the tapes.
She knows this. It must be quite conflicting for the officials because she's a poster girl of this event. She's a celebrated African athlete.
But rules are
rules, and ultimately she went out of the blocks too quickly. She knew the moment she got off that she...
What do you think happened there? Too much pressure, and the official is coming across onto Amusan's lane, and it's a yellow card. So she stays in the race. Well, she's blaming the crowd.
It's a slap on the wrist.
Oh my God, that was saved by the bell, literally.
I mean, look, it's a shocking decision, but I think it's good for the race. We get to see Tobi. As I said, you don't get to see some of these others.
I want to see the replay again. I'm not. Okay.
She was the quickest.
Oh well, my word. Well. This is going to be controversial.
I mean, it is controversial.
Surely, but she's saved, and she has another chance.
What is likely?
We did see one yesterday for the Gambian athletes.
It was
Ibrahima Kamara.
Yeah, but he was spoofed quite
exactly
by the other athletes who did not leave his place. He swayed and spoofed him, which is different from this.
Well, Tobi Amusan giving a second chance at life. And now we're underway. It's the final of the women's 100-meter hurdles. Tobi Amusan has a very comfortable lead, but Madagascar Sidoni is coming in second place. It's Amusan who defends her title. Sidoni comes across in second place to take the silver medal. Madagascar's Fiadananchua Sidoni does really well to get a silver, but Tobi Amusan, yet again, 12.89. Nowhere close to her previous games record, but she is yet again the African Games champion.
Well, I mean, what happened may have affected her. She was slower than usual out of the blocks. Once she kept going, just see the skill and the smoothness of her headland. There was no way she was getting caught. And eventually, she was a cut above the field, as we have known since the beginning of the games, knowing her track record and what she's capable of. But credit to her for shaking off the incident, you know, because these things can get into your head and affect you. And the only effect we saw is a slow start. But ultimately, once she got going, there was only ever one winner.
And an impressive silver for Kamangirira of Zimbabwe as well. There she is, full of smiles, 13.59.
Yep. And,
it's an impressive bronze medal for her. Madagascar's Fiadanamsua Sidoni with the silver medal. Once again, Tobi Express expressing her talent and getting the gold medal, adding to Nigeria's collection so far today.
Yeah, but I was quite impressed by Fiadanamsua's run for 80 or so meters. She seemed to be keeping up with Amusan, but ultimately
Cecilia Gombe 14.00. It's a new national record for Mozambique, but it's only good enough to finish in fifth. Osamu Yu of Nigeria, Fate, also finishing in fourth position.
Amusan will celebrate. She knows she got away with one there. Relief, probably, because, you know, it was the margins were fine as far as the decision making is concerned. I mean, I'm happy he ended up in her favor, and she gets the chance to win that medal for Nigeria. Second track medal for Nigeria after that 400 meters gold. They still have that 4x100 men and women's relay to come, and we might see her back on track for the 4x100 meters, an opportunity to add to the gold that she's just won.
So there are medalists. Musan in the middle with the gold medal for Nigeria. Sidoni in white.
8.9 seconds into a negative 2.1 meter headwind. After a false start, that is the story of this race. And the number that makes it remarkable is not the time itself, but everything that had to happen before it. The question this video answers is not whether Tobi Amusan is the best women's hurdler in Africa. That is settled. The question is what it actually takes to perform at the highest level when the race nearly ends before it begins, when your body has already fired a full competitive response and officials are deliberating your fate in front of a packed stadium. What does elite composure look like in physiological terms, and how does it show up in the biomechanics of a sprint hurdler's restart? The field included Madagascar's Sidoni Fiadanamsoa, Zimbabwe's Ashley Kamangirira, Nigeria's Faith Osamuyi, Mozambique's Cecilia Gwambe, Kenya's Omalisa Rukia, Togo's Naomi Akakpo, and Burkina Faso's Madina Touré. Competitive on paper. In practice, a race built around one athlete. The false start changed everything, not because it nearly disqualified the favorite, but because of what it forced her body to do twice. When an athlete explodes from the blocks at elite level, the neuromuscular sequence is precise. The brain fires a cascade of motor commands. Fast twitch fibers contract near maximum rate, adrenaline spikes, and the body commits. A false start means all of that energy is released with nowhere to go. The system fires, then it has to reset. That reset is not free. It costs cortisol, it costs focus, and it costs the finely calibrated arousal state that hurdlers spend years tuning. Most athletes in that position either freeze on the restart or overcompensate by going too early again. Amusan did neither. Her reaction time on the restart was visibly more conservative than her typical sub-0.130 second exits. That caution is the correct adaptation. Under elevated stress, the margin for a second false start collapses, trading 2 or 3 hundredths at the gun for the guarantee of staying in the race. Across 10 hurdles, that deficit is recoverable. Across 0, it is not. Fiadanamsoa stayed close through the first 2 barriers. That almost never happens against Amusan. Her standard pattern through barriers 1 to 3 is aggressive acceleration. She typically reaches the 3rd hurdle in under 3.80 seconds, using a 5-stride approach that lets her maintain drive phase mechanics, rather than sacrificing momentum for takeoff position. On the restart, her approach was intact, but entry speed was reduced. Fiadanantsoa, running the race of her life at 13.19 for silver, used that compressed early gap. Here is the part that does not sit right on the surface. Amusan holds the world record at 12.12, set in Eugene in 2022. She was running into negative 2.1 meters per second of headwind, a value that adds roughly 3 to 4 tenths to sprint hurdle times at this level. Adjusting for wind, her 12.89 projects to around 12.50 under neutral conditions. That is consistent with her top 10 all-time marks, produced on a day when her pre-race physiological state was arguably the worst it could have been. The disruption was real. The performance absorbed it. What most viewers notice in slow motion is hurdle clearance height. The instinct is to watch how high an athlete goes over the barrier. What actually determines efficiency is horizontal velocity loss at each hurdle. Amusan's clearance geometry kept her center of mass traveling forward rather than upward. Her lead leg attack is typically around 13 to 14 degrees above horizontal at takeoff, low enough to limit airtime while still clearing the 0.838 meter barrier with margin. Every tenth saved in flight phase compounds across 10 hurdles. The difference between a 13-degree and an 18-degree clearance angle accounts for roughly 0.4 of a second over a full race. That is the entire gap between world-class and ordinary. What makes this race instructive is that the false start controversy produced a more useful performance than a clean start would have. A routine Amusan victory confirms she is dominant. An Amusan victory built on a reset, a cautious restart, and a headwind tells us what her technical foundation looks like under genuine pressure. The answer is that it holds. Kamangirira's 13.59 bronze and Gwambe's 14.005, a national record for Mozambique, deserve a moment. Both ran into the same headwind. Both produced career-level performances in a race disrupted before it began. Fiadanantsoa's 13.19 silver was exceptional by any continental standard. The deciding factor in this race was not Amusan's top-end speed. It was stride pattern consistency from barrier 4 onward. Once she absorbed the early deficit from the cautious restart, her 3-stride interlude between hurdles, covering roughly 8.5 meters between barriers, was metronomic. Fiadanantsoa showed a slight lengthening of her penultimate stride, approaching barriers 7 and 8, a common sign of accumulated fatigue. That lengthening forces a compromise in takeoff angle and costs momentum on the descent. The gap that opened in the final third was not Amusan accelerating. It was the field decelerating relative to her maintenance level. Watch for this in any women's 100 meters hurdles final. The race rarely breaks open at the gun. It breaks at barrier 6 or 7, when athletes running at their limit begin showing micro-deterioration in stride mechanics, and the athlete with the deepest technical reserve simply holds form. Amusan's technical reserve, even on a disrupted day in Accra, was the largest in the field. The broader point is about what world-class technique actually protects. Not a record, not immunity from disruption. What it establishes is a floor, a minimum performance level that holds even when conditions are as bad as they get. That floor, for Amusan, is currently higher than any other African hurdler's ceiling. If you want to see what it looks like without a headwind and without a false start, the 12.12 from Eugene is the reference. This race was not that. It was something more useful, a measure of a champion when the conditions are trying to prevent her from being one. Subscribe for more technical breakdowns. If this raised a question about hurdle biomechanics or race tactics you want us to cover next, drop it in the comments.